This Nepali Sherpa guide is carrying a Malaysian climber on his back down from a part of Mount Everest called the Death Zone. Gelje Sherpa says he saved the man's life. He was guiding a client to the summit in mid-May. That's when he saw the Malaysian climber clinging to a rope and shivering in the extreme cold. The Death Zone is a part of the mountain where temperatures can drop below -20 degrees Fahrenheit. Rescues are almost impossible there, authorities say. Gelje convinced his client to give up the summit attempt and began his rare high-altitude rescue.
It took me 5 to 6 hours to get from 8,500 meters above sea level to 7,900. It was very difficult. In places where it was rockier, we could not drag him. We had to carry him on our backs with difficulty.
He eventually got help from another guide, and a helicopter then carried the climber down to base camp.
It was important for us to rescue him, even from the summit. Money can be earned any time. Left like that, he could have died. We have saved his life by quitting the summit.
The climber was put on a flight to Malaysia last week. The dramatic rescue comes as Nepal issued a record 478 permits for Everest during this year's climbing season. At least 12 climbers have died, and another 5 are still missing on Everest slopes.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return. And India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night, he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today, Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony. The US and Russia are dangerously close to an armed conflict. This year, 2023, New Delhi will be the capital of global diplomacy. For a country as diverse as ours, with 88% of the population illiterate, it was a very big deal to write a constitution, and that too, the world's largest. Meanwhile, if we may, here's a Republic Day gift from India for the BBC. A list of suggestions for the BBC for their upcoming documentaries. Number 1, the Kohinoor and the colonial loot. Number 2, an outdated monarchy and unhealthy obsession with the royals. Number 3, racism in 2023. We're waiting.